Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. This is where you will meet some of the most intelligent, creative, and talented people who come to share tips, resources, and knowledge on various topics. My guest comes from a magnitude of industries that include music, television, entertainment, mental health, community advocates, culinary arts, and so much more. Today I have with me Tiffany Gorman and Malia Cohen, who's actually going to talk about the importance of having a doula and balancing motherhood and career. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So before I get started, I'm actually going to read their bios. Tiffany Gorman earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Fisk University, a historically Black university in Nashville, Tennessee, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Culinary Arts from Johnson & Wales in Providence, Rhode Island. After years in a professional kitchen, having her daughter caused her to change her careers to early childhood education. She is a recent master's graduate from Erickson Institute in Early Childhood Development. She works as a Windy City doula and as a Chicago volunteer doula. She was born and raised in San Francisco and began writing poetry at the age of 7. She lives in Chicago's Morgan Park neighborhood on the far south side of the city. For Tiffany, having the Poetry Foundation in her backyard is a dream come true. It is a place that honors the love of poetry, of poets who write poems. An admirer of Nikki Giovanni, Gwendolyn Brooks, and Octavia Butler. She aims to project the same love and pride for her people in her own unique voice. And you can find out more about her at gormanpublishinghouse.com. Malia Cohen was born and raised in San Francisco. She earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science from Nashville, Tennessee, from Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and a Master's of Science in Public Policy and Management from Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She serves as a member of the California State Board of Equalization, California's elected tax commission. Malia is the first African-American woman to serve on the board. As the BOE board member for District 2, she represents 10 million constituents living in all parts of 23 counties extending from Del Norte County in the north of Santa Barbara County in the south. She is also a former San Francisco Board of Supervisor and the president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Wow, you ladies really have extensive backgrounds. I'm just overwhelmed by all of this. So before we get into our conversation, I would actually like to walk down memory lane with these guys. I've known them both all of their lives. Tiffany's my daughter, and Malia is her cousin. Malia
Also your cousin.
Well, yes, of course, but I'm just introducing you guys this way because your mom and her dad are first cousins. So it's really more, you know what I'm saying? So I get it. I've known you guys both forever. You guys have, I've enjoyed your relationship over the years through high school, through college, the simple fact that you guys were in college together. And I used to get some of them phone calls that would just drive me crazy. Do you guys remember some of those phone calls?
Yes, I remember them because you always tell the story of the phone calls.
Well, yeah, because I was on the other end going, but you guys, I'm in California and you guys are in Tennessee. What am I supposed to do? Tiffany was an only child.
I'm an only child and don't touch my stuff.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm one of 5, so we share. So when you see something that you want or need, you just help yourself to it, and you leave a note. I left a courtesy note. She knew where her pumice stone was. I mean, it was like a pumice stone, ladies and gentlemen. It was not a big deal. And let me also say that Tiffany and I were really, really close, particularly in high school, right? And I was at Fisk because of Tiffany. Tiffany, you might not remember this, Tiffany, but you gave my name and address to the admissions office, who then sent me an application. You were like, just apply. Just
because you were like, I'm not doing it.
Exactly. And I did it. And it was like the best adult decision I've ever made in my young adult life. Attending Fisk was absolutely the best. And spending it 3 years with you was incredible.
Yes.
But yes, we did have our ups and downs. We did have like a sister-like relationship. And Miss Kelly, you were the beneficiary of, I believe Tiffany would call and complain to you.
Yes.
And then you would call me and be like, what's going on? So it was really interesting. Like, I didn't even know Tiffany's problem until you brought it to my attention.
And that's because you are the big sister with 5 other sisters. Girl, Tiffany would call me and I'm just like, I'm a big sister, so I knew where you were coming from, but I also knew she was an only child and I knew where she was coming from. She didn't have to share. She didn't have anybody to share with.
No, she didn't. And I'm grateful to be the one who have taught you how to share, Tiffany.
So you taught her how to.
I'm sure I did. I stepped in and I saved you, Tiffany, when you were just young at 17 years old. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Now let's get into our conversation about a doula. So Tiffany, can you explain to our audience exactly what a doula is and how they differ from a midwife?
Sure. So doula is a Greek word that means slave, and doulas are emotional caretakers of birthing people. We help emotionally, we help with pain management, we help with being an advocate so that the birthing person's wishes are being listened to in hospitals. We know that hospitals have a tendency to ignore birthing people, especially if they are of color. So really making sure that this person is heard, that their concerns are dealt with. And it differs from a midwife because the midwife has the medical license and knowledge to actually give birth, to perform a full birth. I'm not at that end. I'm at the top end.
So why is having a doula not a new concept for Black people, and why did you become one?
So when we think about what having a baby is, our modern brains think of a hospital and a sterile environment and doctors and nurses and machines, but that is really recent. That most women were giving birth at home in their bed with the help of midwives and doulas up until the 50s. And when we're looking at Black women, particularly in America, Black women birth everyone, white and Black babies. It was the Black midwife who went from plantation to plantation and birthed and caught babies. It was the Black midwife who did all of this. People. It is rooted in our African traditions. It's rooted in our African American traditions. So I'm here for more of what's happening.
If I may chime in, also from what I know, what it's been different is that doula has been a predominantly woman-led, dominated field.
Yeah.
And when medical providers, doctors, i.e. men, realized how lucrative it could be for them to deliver babies, that's when you start to see the system start to change,
Yes.
where you start to see people pivot and want to give birth in a hospital where you have a doctor, a male doctor, who then can bill the insurance company and get a lot more money. Doulas were doing this for free. This was labor of love, a tradition. But when Western medicine realized that they could make some money, that's one thing that is consistent, one thing that is recession-proof, that will go through any kind of tornado or typhoon or any kind, it's weatherproof, is birthing babies. Women are going to have babies. They have had them since the beginning of time, and they will continue to have time, whether in good financial times or unstable financial times. So this is a way, a consistent, steady stream that hospitals could make money, which is why you see hospital rates, higher hospital rates, particularly for women of color, with C-sections. It's a business. It's a business element that hospitals predicate their bottom line on. So doulas, modern day doulas, disrupt that money-making system.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to get into all of the politics and the policies and the background of doula hospital birth versus non-hospital birth, but we can go there if you'd like. It's up to
Okay.
you.
So Tiffany,
We've got
tell me.
two very well-versed professionals right here, ready to rock and roll with you.
Oh, I think it's awesome. I think it's going to be a real informative conversation. So Tiffany, why did you become a doula?
I became a doula after my own birthing experience. I had a traumatic birthing experience, and I just felt like I was alone. And then I had an angel of a nurse come in, and she looked around the room and made sure nobody was listening and no one was near. And she said, "Don't let them do anything to you you don't want." And then she left the room, and I never saw her again. And having her just say those words gave me the strength to send away a group of students, medical students who were coming into my room for an observation. No, I don't consent to this. I'm not a guinea pig. I'm not here for them to look at. I'm a woman in labor and I need my privacy. And so I said, if there's a way that I can help other Black women so they don't have that fear while they're in a hospital setting, that I would.
That was awesome. So Malia, you are a new mom.
Yes.
Did you have an experience with the doula?
Absolutely. I have first became familiar with the doula when I had a girlfriend who was pregnant. This was like maybe in 2006. And she said that she wanted a doula. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to afford one. So she introduced this concept to me many years ago. And then when I was a member of the Board of Supervisors, I had a legislative aide that was pregnant and also had a doula. And she and I were through discussion, we're talking about how it is incredibly unfortunate that poor women without insurance or limited resources do not have the same access to quality healthcare. To quality, not healthcare, but also we were also looking at the statistics where you had Black women that were dying through as a result of child labor. And one way to mitigate Black maternal health disparities, meaning Black women dying after or during labor, was to have a doula present. So I wrote a policy and created a pilot program with San Francisco General Hospital to twofold: recruit and train women of color to become doulas and to use this as a career, but also to have them inside San Francisco General Hospital to be that health advocate for women of color. For women, oftentimes they feel disempowered. This is widely accepted in science, and we see it in the statistics on how women, Black women in particular, are dying from preventable diseases, but also from blood clots, from just child labor, whereas white women are not. And these are also Black women who have insurance. So it's not even a class issue. It really has to do with a bias that is built into the medical profession and the system. But with a doula, a health advocate, you have someone that is there in the beginning, helping you be mindful of exercises, diet, as well as breathing techniques to help you breathe through and embrace the surges, educating you on how your body is changing. So that I know there were points in time when I felt like I was going crazy. And my doula would say, nope, that's just a hormones. Your body is being flushed with hormones, or your body is engorged with blood and fluid. This is completely normal behavior. Your body is doing what it was created to do. And having that professional, that positive affirmation is what made the difference. Mm-hmm. I have a 10-month-old daughter who was born last September during the pandemic. And so when you add on a first-time new mom, you add on a pandemic, you add on a lockdown, you add on a virus that's invisible, that's killing people that we don't know. And this was before the vaccinations. I mean, there was a lot of confusion, but I had my doula. And quite honestly, I also had Tiffany, who also served as my surrogate doula, that would call on me, that would check on me. Tiffany gave me recipes to heal my body. I mean, it was my mindset going into this was trying to really blend Western philosophy with medicine, but also understanding and embracing what my natural body was created to do. Embracing, paying attention to breathing, paying attention to stretching, and to yoga, positive affirmations, visualizing my cervix getting thinner and shorter, right? Is that how it goes? You want your cervix to thin out, right? And your face, and owning it and not being afraid. I think once I got over the mind, because I was afraid, when they talk about labor in Western medicine and on the TV, you got a woman who water breaks and they're just screaming bloody hell. And I was afraid of the pain, but it was only through my doula sessions, and she came to my house. She taught myself, she taught my husband what to expect, how to prepare, what I should be doing on the registry, what kind of foods are healing to the body. Like things, honestly, and I'm, you heard the bio, I'm an educated woman. I got a master's degree. My husband's a lawyer. We're smart people. But when you are in it, that headset, and when those surges come on, I mean, it's almost like your primal brain comes in. Don't you agree, Tiffany? Like you need someone there telling you can do this.
Someone else who can have the calm mind to help you walk you through it. Absolutely.
So and stick to and help you stick to your birth plan. That was really important. Tiffany talked about that. So for me, I had a beautiful birth experience. I went over my birth plan with Tiffany. I think she gave me a few pointers and things to add and things to consider. Things you just don't know. I don't know the exact terminology. Tiffany, what's that stuff that the babies are born with, like that white verdict, that coating that they come out with?
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't think of the name right now, but I know exactly what you're speaking of. It starts with a V.
It does start with a V. I think it's like, but this coating, not washing it off immediately, letting the umbilical cord, before you cut it, allow it to stop pulsing, remain connected to the baby. I mean, it's just little things that my doula exposed me to, that and my team of midwives supported me through, that helped me have a positive birth experience.
So, Tiffany,
yes,
I know Malia actually kind of talked on this a little bit in terms of why it's important to have a doula for Black women, and what did the first days of parenthood look like?
So the first days of parenthood are hard, and we don't talk about it enough. And our culture has this expectation of, you just bring the baby home and you can go on with your life, and you get home and you're sleep deprived for the next 2 months, because this person has to eat every 2.5 hours. You can't skip a feeding, so you've got to wake up, you've got to be there. So it's taxing, and so to have a postpartum doula in the home that can take care of some light cooking, do some laundry, throw the dishes in the dishwasher for you, just kind of take care of those basic things so that you can really be focused on resting, nursing, and bonding.
Yeah. And so because of like what Malia had said earlier, that everybody can't afford that, to have that luxury. So you also volunteer. So you work as a doula, but you also volunteer as a doula, where you're able to assist African American women, to give them that opportunity to be able to get grounded.
Yeah, the Chicago Volunteer Doula is an organization that serves any birthing people who are in need of a doula and for whatever reason cannot afford one. We do 12-hour shifts once a month, and I've had the pleasure of going to the hospital with one patient and client, and she really needed me to be there. It was a lot that was going on, and I had to step in a couple times and have them ask her for consent. Are you giving them consent to do this next, because they're just pushing in needles, and you have to speak, you have to ask. You can't just invade people like that. And that's what sends people's anxiety up, and then rushes of cortisol in their bloodstream, and now they're in labor. Like, that's what causes the stress that ends up killing Black women, is having these microaggressions of non-consent. And so, yeah, the volunteering one is really my way of making sure that all women in Chicago who want a doula are able to have.
Mm-hmm. So, Malia, what did your first days look like? Were there any challenges, and what adjustments have you had to make?
I didn't have challenges, meaning I was able to labor. I labored at home and I delivered at the San Francisco Birth Center to a team of midwives. And let's see, my water broke at about 6:30 in the morning. And by 1 o'clock, I was headed to the birth center. And by 4 o'clock, 3 hours later, she was here. And then by 11 o'clock p.m., I was at home, resting and recovering. And my doula was with me through this entire process. And Tiffany's description is absolutely critical. She came in, she stayed with me the first night. She made sure that the baby was latching. She made sure that I was drinking fluids, that I was fortunate, meaning I didn't rip, I didn't tear, I didn't have any surgery or any stitching. I did lose a lot of blood. And so by the 10th day, I had to get an iron transfusion. First, I thought it was a blood transfusion I needed, but then it turns out I needed an iron transfusion. But my doula was with me during the night. She stayed a couple nights and would wake me up, bring me snacks, healthy snacks, to make sure that my milk was coming in and that it was healthy and nutritious for Madison. And she encouraged me to stay in bed for 30 days, which I understand is pretty critical. Staying close to the bed the first 60 days and the first 90 days, just so those first 3 months are really critical on healing and also bonding, skin to skin contact, all these things, techniques I learned through the mentorship of my doula. And as a result, I've formed a fantastic bond with my doula. And I believe that doulas are certainly in the life bringing business and sustaining. And it was just an incredible experience. I highly recommend, if a woman is able to have a doula, to have one. It is cost prohibitive. They are not cheap. Doulas are very expensive. So I'm really glad to know that Tiffany is volunteering her skill set, because I think that we will see a change in birth outcomes when you have someone to advocate for you on your behalf. Like you said, when those cortisol levels reach, when those surges are coming in, sometimes Black women of color lose their voice already when they're in a hospital situation. It's very intimidating. You've got well-educated people coming over here, fussing over you, offering you things that you don't need. Well, all that said, is having someone that is steady, that you have already bonded with, is a game changer. And I would like to see, and I'm continuing to work in this vein, to make doula services part of healthcare, and so that you would be able to get health insurance. Ultimately, Medicaid or Medicare would be wonderful, so that all women would have access to it. It's more cost effective to deliver a baby with a doula than without, and it's better for the mother and the baby.
So, and we have a friend, a mutual friend, Fiskite, midwife woman here in Chicago named Janine Logan, who is on the brink of opening up a birthing center for the South Side, and be the only one on the South Side of Chicago. And there's only one birthing center in the whole city. So, yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome. Good for her.
That is incredible. And the distinction between a birthing center and a hospital, like when you go to a hospital, they automatically create a port for IV, right? And this is granted, this is not everyone can deliver at a birth center. You have to basically, you need to be healthy and the baby needs to be healthy. And if there's ever an emergency, then you have a backup plan that you go to a medical facility in case you need to have surgery or the baby needs extensive medical attention. But a birthing center is largely, you're going to a facility that's not a hospital. They don't have intrusive wires and lights and a medical bed. I mean, it's like it feels like a home. You're in like your bedroom, and it's large. It's a large room. I had a water birth, so there's a bathtub in place. You have a stability ball where you have the ability to give birth in multiple different techniques in different ways.
Yeah. So Tiffany, what I'd like to know, what are some of the concerns that your clients have?
The biggest concern is for labor, the pain. Again, media has kind of warped our understanding of what birth is. And so they're always thinking about the what if it goes wrong. And so I try to remind them that people have been giving birth for thousands of years. This is not a new thing. Your body knows exactly what to do. You don't have to be afraid. You actually don't have to do anything. If you allow your body to do what it does and allow the baby to do what it does, you both will be in sync and you will have a smooth birth. So fear of the pain. And then for postpartum, it's sleep. And it feels oftentimes not, the concern is not of lack of sleep because of lack of sleep and well-being, but because of lack of sleep and ability to be productive. I still have things that I need to do. And will I be able to sleep enough and take care of this baby? Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that Malia stayed in the bed for 30 days. I've had clients who were like, so I was thinking about going running tomorrow. And I'm like, you had a baby 4 days ago. Why? Why do you need to go running? Oh, I shouldn't? No, you shouldn't. I said, I'm of the mind that you should be in the bed for at least 40 days.
To let your body heal. Right.
Heal. It took 10 months of moving things around, hours of pushing things out, and 4 days later, you want to go to Pilates.
But those sounds like your wealthy clients that would come up with something like that.
They are.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I know that.
Also, I think it's also part of the patriarchy that has you convinced that you need to get back out, that you're afraid you're going to lose your job, that you got to get snapped back. I mean, there's a whole lot of things, I think, just as a woman that we have internalized that we need to deprogram ourselves and understand, your uterus needs to shrink, your hips need to get back into place. I mean, and then your body also changes now that the baby is here, right? You're bringing milk, and all of that is actually work. It was my doula that educated me on, you are working, you're healing. Yeah.
Now, and what I'm thinking about, so you guys, I know that Tiffany also works with, as a paid doula, where she's working with husband and wife teams. And then when she goes in the community, sometimes it's not always like that. It's a single mom. So she really needs the help more. So the single moms really need a support system.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because that hasn't been the case. I've actually, with the Chicago volunteer doulas, they've had partners.
Okay.
No one has been single. And with my paid doula, I've had quite a few conversations with single by choice women.
Oh, having the babies single by choice. Oh, interesting. Now, isn't that a switch? But you know what? I'm so happy.
You have the money to pay for it. You don't have to put up with no partner bullshit.
Okay. You guys, and I'm
baby. I'm a hire a consultant to help me have this baby. That's exactly what it is.
And you know what? I'm actually happy to hear, Tiffany, that, Black women are having babies, because I heard that there was a time that we weren't having babies anymore.
Who told you that? That ain't never been.
Okay, so I just heard where they were just saying that Black women.
In America birth rates are going down, but it's birth rates that are going.
Okay, so that's what I was actually probably thinking about. So, um, what age was your baby when you went back to work, Tiffany, and how did you balance your career and motherhood?
So Amina was almost a year when I went back to work. Um, then she was home with Brian for a year.
Okay.
She went to daycare. So I just went to work and came home and um, I don't know. I had to let go of perfection, uh, which is hard. I'm still trying. So if the house didn't look like what I wanted it to look like, being okay with that because we were living in it, and so got a
Yeah.
toddler. They leave stuff everywhere. They walk from room to room with things in hand.
Mhm. Malia, you have yet to experience that, huh?
Yes, yes and no. Madison is not walking, but it's like I experienced, like she's got so much stuff, like
Stuff.
gear. Like in
Yeah.
order to move to go do something, you got to bring a pack and play. You got to bring snacks. You got a backpack full of change of clothes and diapers and food. And then
Yep.
I'm still breastfeeding. I got to bring a breast pump every now and then. If I'm traveling down to Los Angeles or wherever, I got to pump my breast. I got to bring an ice pack. I mean, it's not easy. It is
Yeah.
Yeah.
not an easy thing. You don't just pick up and go like you used to. It
Yeah.
takes me, literally takes me about an hour more to get
Yeah.
myself ready, to get
Yeah.
her ready before
Yeah.
you can move. And then you still forget something.
Yeah. Oh,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
what I say is that as she gets older and it's going to take longer still, give yourself even an extra 15 minutes when she starts to try to tie her shoes and zip her coat, because it's going to take her 30 minutes to do it and she's not going to want your help. You're going to have to wait.
Yeah, they always said that motherhood teaches you patience, and I am learning how I do need to be a lot more patient and just open, and I just give myself that grace.
Yeah,
And I
little
don't
kids are no joke. I'm gonna tell you, little kids are no joke. I am so glad that I'm out of that and watching you guys go through it, and you more so now, Malia, than Tiffany, because Amina, she's the teen, and that's a whole nother scene.
That's
I was
another
just,
podcast, another conversation.
well, I was just telling Lino, I said, when Amina was turning between 11 and 12, you could tell she started having that attitude about, adults really they irk me. Adults irked her. Whereas now at 13 going on 14, she's so mellow and open and fun to be with, and she talks to us, and but that tween, she don't have nothing to do with us.
Mhm.
We irked her. Everything we said irritated her, but now at 13 and 14, she is so beautiful. I absolutely adore her.
Yeah. She is
But
fun to be
12,
around.
11, 12, forget it. So I don't know what's next, but I just know. So now let's talk about school, because that's the other thing, Malia, you are at because like Tiffany, you can talk about Amina in her school, and then I want you, Malia, to start thinking about, oh my God, I got to start looking for preschools and looking for that. So Tiffany, where is Amina in her school setting right now?
Well, I mean, can I take it back a little bit further?
Sure.
So when she was 2, we started looking for her kindergarten. We started looking at the selective enrollment schools in Chicago, the public school system for gifted children, because we knew there was something about her. Um, and so we were really on top of it, going to open houses and meeting principals. And so when it was time for her to test, that she would test and she would test well, and she got in. And so she's been in selective enrollment schools um, her entire educational career with CPS, Chicago Public School District. Um, and so now she's at Lynn Bloom High School in their academic center. So they have a 7th and 8th grade component. You have to test in, and if you get accepted in the 7th grade, you're also automatically accepted into high school. So you can just continue to be there. And as it being a selective enrollment school, these are coveted spaces. There are thousands of students who apply and 100 get it. Um, So she's at Lynn Bloom in the 7th grade, doing really, really well, getting high school credits. We're looking into boarding schools for high school now.
It's exciting. And then
It's
I know she
exciting.
did tell me that right now she's taken over the summer. I'm like, most kids are out having fun. She's taking a geometry class in the summer. So when she starts school in the 8th grade, she'll be in trigonometry.
Yep.
I don't even know if I ever took trigonometry.
It's a 5-week course, 3 hours of straight lecture, 5 days a week, and then homework and tests every day.
She loves it though.
And she has all 4s. So she has the A plus.
Yeah, she's thriving. So now, Malia, what about you? Have you I'm sure you probably have some places in mind.
Madison was still in me, and I was thinking about it.
Okay, because you know what? Because if you weren't thinking about it, I know Loretta was. I know your mama was.
I know my mother was, absolutely, which had me thinking about it. So this is, and I think, we come from a family we value academics. We value and respect it and encourage it. And so we do, like you said, you knew the baby was talented at 2 years old, right? And I started thinking about it when she was inside me. As a matter of fact, I just got notification yesterday that she's been accepted into a daycare program. So it's 1 day a week, but it allows Madison to be able to begin to socialize, and I'm excited about it because it's just 1 day a week. But
no, that's fun to be around other kids.
But the crux is that this shit is expensive.
Yes.
Always.
This is not even preschool. This is just daycare.
Childcare period is expensive.
Yes.
Childcares are expensive, and it is the one system that I think really needs a union. The teachers need a union because it's the most important aspect of our economy, having childcare. We try to act like it's not, but it is. And the people who provide that are making minimum wage, and they want you to have bachelor's and master's degrees.
Correct. And listen, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they want you to live in the area.
Okay.
So this is real, and again, this is talking about a patriarchal society that undervalues what is considered to be women's work. Housework, child rearing, caregiving. All of these things are all undervalued, but absolutely critical to humanity.
Yeah.
Right. Humanity.
To humanity. So for me, daycare will have daycare once a week, and then we will pivot into preschool, and it's just really just making a commitment to being able to provide the best that we can for Madison, so that she will be set up for success in life, so that she will be a preteen taking geometry for fun in the summertime.
Okay, can you believe that? Yeah, Amina is something else, girl, and smart as a whip. Oh, she's
an artist too.
And one thing I can say is that the other part that I really appreciate is that because she's in public school, she's around Black children who are smart, like her.
So that is actually a concern that I have in San Francisco.
Is very different from what my classroom was. She's not the only one, and knowing what it feels like to be the only one has made it so important to me that she is not the only one.
I'm with you on that, Tiffany. I think you and I grew up here in the city, and we have a similar experience. I went to public schools here, and you went to the private school track, but yet still in these high performing schools and academic settings, you were the only one or one of two. Right. And you were, unintentionally made to feel like you had to be the representative, and speak on and be all knowledgeable. And that is something that I'm very sensitive to about the environment that Madison in, which is why we made a conscious decision to be in the southeast part of San Francisco, where there is African American life and where there is culture, and you can drive down the street and see it and experience it. You can hear the music. So that is always in the backdrop, I think, of our job as mothers, as in particular to provide those environments.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I actually, when it hit me, Tiffany had went to her grandparents' house and her cousins were over, and they were just doing regular street dancing. And she got so excited by seeing that. And then it hit me. I said, Lord, what have I done to my child? Girl, you best to believe that change. We sent her down to East Palo Alto, where she ended up going to Leadership Training Academy. Changed her whole trajectory of life. She ended up learning about Malcolm X. And she was around all Black people. And
That's
after
where I learned
that,
about HBCUs. It's where I learned about HBCUs. It's the
yeah,
reason that I applied to Fisk and Spelman and Clark Atlanta and didn't think about UC nothing.
yeah. Well, it was so funny because I'm thinking, what have we done?
I know,
You
a
know,
little Malcolm X, little
girl, and
militant.
then, didn't she turn into it?
Yeah,
Matter of fact,
she certainly went to the nth degree.
girl,
with
people
it.
would tell me, they would call her little Angela. They go, girl, your daughter's little Angela. I said, Lord, y'all didn't know before that she was not little Angela.
I know, ballet and yoga. Remember you were doing like yoga in preschool? I mean, but you know what, honestly, it has given Tiffany, like, it's so well-rounded.
Yeah, absolutely.
In every single environment that she's in, whether she's all white, in an all-white environment, multicultural environment, or an all-Black environment. I mean, like, you know, they talk a lot about code switching and being able to put it on, but most importantly, being authentic.
Yeah.
And that
I stopped code switching. I don't code switch no more. I be authentic everywhere.
I was gonna say that's good. Being authentic and just being able to stand your ground, stand your truth, and you are who you are. Yeah. Natural hair, all tattoos, all. I mean, just like it fully embrace what it means to be a Black woman in America.
Yeah.
So even with the no bras since the pandemic, because those aren't coming back either.
You and my sister.
Okay, that was too, but you know what? That was a little bit too much information. Don't need to have that. Okay, ladies. So now what I would actually like to ask you guys each individually, I would like for you to name 3 people that have inspired you. So I don't care who goes first.
I'll go first. I would think, and you know, for the listeners, we did not have the questions beforehand, so this is really on the spot. But I will definitely say my mother has been the first person I think that has influenced me, right? Teaching me compassion and quite honestly, delayed gratification, hard work. And then, you know, as I've gotten older, my grandmothers, both of them respectively, my father's mother and my mother's mother, have taught key things that I see how they manifest in my life. My father's mother, more on cooking and cleaning, right? I mean, things I resented because I was rebellious and I did not want to go that traditional woman role, and I abhorred it, which is probably why I also had Madison so late in life, because I've been focusing on just wanting to be a career woman. Mm-hmm. And then also my mother's mother, being a very quiet but strong matriarch in the family. You know, you remember Medea. I mean,
absolutely.
Quiet, but yet very, very strong. And you knew where she stood. She was unwavering. And I admire that. So those are my 3, but I'm going to group my grandmothers as one lump. So my mother and my grandmother.
See how she does, Tiffany. She can't help herself.
And then I would say my third one would be really, you know, interesting. I would have to say it's probably, you know, and I don't know if this is too cliche, but I would really say that I really do a lot of study of Martin Luther King. As we have come through George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and during the summer, I was also pregnant, but really began to reread his works and his vision. And as an elected official, really understanding and taking his teachings and trying to apply them to my policy vision and to equitable healthcare. And when I talk about King and his philosophies, there's the Malcolm X and the Black Panther movement that is also a part of that. They're almost on the same coin, just different sides, because the breakfast program, health, nutrition,
yes, absolutely,
being the undergirding of everything of Black life and Black culture, and sustaining Black humanity is all about predicated on your health and access to quality education. And so those are, although I named 5 people, those are my top 3.
You see how she is. She can't help herself. That's okay, Malia. I know you.
You're welcome.
So, Tiffany, who are your 3? But you know what? Before I go to you, Tiffany, You know what? One of the things that you said that really struck with me when you added the Black Panthers is that they were so ahead of their time, and them starting that breakfast program was very progressive. And then the government copied that off of them, and they never gave the credit where that initial thought project came from, and it was definitely from the Panthers.
Yep, WIC is a direct descendant of the breakfast program.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the Panthers really need to be given the respect that they are really due, and not considered thugs and whatever else they considered them. Those were some very men that cared about their people and their community. So Tiffany, who are your three people?
So my three people, first I'm going to start with you. Did you?
Well, because you got to start with me because I'm on here.
No, because you were her first teacher. Are you
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing.
Everything.
Okay, I'm teasing, guys. Goodness.
You definitely taught me the power of saying no and it being a complete sentence and not feeling bad about it or feeling any kind of way about it. Understanding that other people's lack of planning does not constitute a what? Emergency on my behalf.
Okay.
It don't mean that. It don't mean that.
Yes.
These are all the lessons that, I teach to Amina. Same things. My second influence, I would say would be Octavia. She has a collection of there's a collection of her notes that she wrote as a young writer. And she would write, I am a successful writer. I am a Pulitzer Prize winner. I am, and just all of these declarative statements of what type of writer she is. And those things came true. And it came true for her later in life. And so, we live in a youth obsessed culture where everything needs to happen before you're 30, otherwise it doesn't count. and I could barely keep myself alive before 30. So it's okay to be older and get started. And that's really what I learned from her, and even reading her works, her characters. And then my third person would be Nikki. I mean, these Nikki Giovanni, she just tells it how it is, and she lets it all hang out on the page, and you can love it or not, and it doesn't even matter.
Now, what about when you got to meet her at Fisk and you couldn't even say anything to her because you cried the whole time?
I gave her a note I had written because I knew she was coming, and I handed it to her and I left crying. It was overwhelmed.
I knew Nikki Giovanni was going to be in your list.
Did you? How did you know that, Malia?
Because I know Tiffany.
Okay.
I know Tiffany. I knew Nikki was going to be in the list, and I knew you were going to be in the list. I couldn't have guessed Octavia though, but it makes sense. Prolific writer.
Right. I'm actually rereading her works in chronological order of copyright dates, which is interesting.
So now, Tiffany, what would your 9-year-old Tiffany say to the adult Tiffany today?
Do I remember what 9-year-old Tiffany was even thinking? Yeah, I don't know. 9-year-old Tiffany wasn't thinking about much, but having fun.
But what do you think she would say to you now?
These questions are always so weird to me. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
Malia, what would your 9-year-old Malia say to the adult Malia today?
Yeah, actually, I remember 8 and 9 years old was actually 8 in particular was when I realized that I wanted to work in City Hall, because we took a tour of City Hall in San Francisco. And I tell this story often when I'm talking to people and I'm talking about how I got into public service. It was just, I just wanted to be in the building. It was really simple as a kid. I just wanted to be a building and I wanted to be a lawyer because I thought lawyers worked at City Hall, which was true. But you don't have to only be a lawyer to work in City Hall. I just thought the building was beautiful. Tiffany, you remember the staircase, and this was before the renovations. Now, Tiffany and I have a history also in high school being on the youth commission in San Francisco, and youth advocacy, and that's where I have also found my voice and learned how to tell my story, and was learning about exposure to policy. So that being 8 years old, being 9 years old is what stepped me on the path to where I am today. So my 9-year-old self would tell Malia today, I think she would say, "Yay, you did it. You did it."
Okay.
And, you walk down, again, my 8-year-old mind was, I just wanted to walk up and down the big staircase every single day. And so I'm thinking of a child voice saying, "Hey, you did it. You did it. You walked down the staircase every single day, for 8 years,
Yeah.
8 years. And you were the president of the board of supervisors."
Yeah.
So she would be cheering for me. She would be applauding me and happy. And, I would probably.
I'm so glad your 8-year-old self can do all those things. My 8-year-old self, man.
But you know what, Tiffany, think about it. Like you said, you were writing poetry at 7 and you're still writing poetry.
Yeah, but I never thought that I would be writing poetry for other people. Writing poetry was like taking a bath. It's just something that I do. So it was never a thought of like, oh, I hope I carry on with this. I've just always done it. So I'm real simple.
Malia, I think she's a piece of work. She's talking about she's simple. Piece of work.
She is.
Yeah, but she's right. She was writing. I mean, I used to pick up little bitty pieces of paper with poetry and music. So I got her notebooks so I could be all in one place. And she's been writing ever since. And she wouldn't share it. So when she finally started sharing her poetry, I was amazed. I was like, oh, this is different.
When she starts sharing anything, because she didn't share, period. Right. We could ask Rishi, we could ask Nikki. There's a whole bunch of cousins out there. So she wasn't really taught to share, Miss Kelly.
But she was taught to share. You know what? And we would make sure she would donate her toys to the different hospitals. No, she did share.
That's true.
But it's
just somehow the lesson of sharing skipped when it came to when I wanted to borrow that pumice stone.
Well, but you know what happened? Let me tell you what happened. So I'm teaching her to share, and her father taught her the opposite. Because he's a brother.
I have no siblings. I don't have to share.
Yeah, he's a brother. He was number 7 out of 10. So I'm teaching her to share, and he's telling her, no, you don't have to because you're an only child. So she had this dichotomy going, one parent telling her this and the other one telling her this.
And I listened to the one who made sense. But I actually, the first time I read any of my poetry out loud was my junior year at Fisk.
Oh, really?
I would write some for like classes in high school, but I never, besides the teacher, I never showed them to anyone. And then when I ran for Miss Fisk, and I wrote a poem for my talent and recited that. And then it didn't happen again until I turned 40.
And now you're publishing. That's incredible. What a story.
Well, and especially for someone that grew up as a child actress. She was a performer.
That's true.
She was a performer. So I thought that was very interesting. But Tiffany was one of those perfect examples of a performer that can be in stage in front of thousands of people, but can't do one-on-one. That's how she was as a kid. So, yeah. Okay. So what projects are you guys working on? So I don't care who goes first.
Well, I am actually working on a new book of poems. These are love poems. September tentative date of coming out. We'll see. And I've been working with two wonderful Black women doulas with Our Mother's Light, and I've just been hired on as an additional doula. And so I'm so excited to be working with these Black women who are part of a larger doula and midwife community that I'm a part of. So we know some of the same people, and really start to get paid to do and work with the clientele that I really want to be working with.
Yeah, you
Because not all of us are broke. We have money. And so being able to have Black women and Black families who need doulas, I'm very excited.
And so, Malia, what about you? What do you have going on?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm getting ready to launch a statewide campaign. I'm running for controller. I'll be on the ballot in June of 2022. So like you, Tiffany, we've got a launch date of early September. So we have just been organizing, moving in that direction, lining up the endorsements, getting the fundraising. We just have a major fundraising deadline of June 30th. And so now that that's behind us, now we're pivoting and going to launch and make our announcement public, and then also kick in fundraising up and down the state.
So now what does a controller, what does that entail?
Oh, yeah. So the controller is actually the chief fiscal officer for the state of California, and it's a prominent role. It's a constitutional office holder, meaning that the duties and functions are written out in the California state constitution. And think about it as a CFO, the chief fiscal officer for the state of California. California is a large, huge budget. It's the 5th largest economy in the world. And so the greatest power that the controller has is the ability to audit. And I've conducted a lot of public audits and have found a lot of things, one of which, when I did an audit with the San Francisco Police Department, it reveals a lot, where money is being spent, how it's being spent, and who's getting what. So that is important, because it also, I believe, it has a social justice lens to it, because it's very important to know who's getting what and how much, as these are public tax dollars. So we want to make sure that there's an equal distribution, or there's some equity involved, not just equality, but equity. And these tax dollars are going to help communities that need the help that are asking for.
That's beautiful.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. So ladies, as we wrap up, I'm going to allow each one of you to leave some parting words to the audience in terms of, balancing their motherhood and career, or getting a doula. So however you guys would like to wrap it up with them, please leave some parting words.
So I would like to say that if hiring a doula is prohibitive, have your close friend, cousin, sister, aunt, spouse, whomever that you trust, be there with you in the birthing room, who can encourage you, who can speak up for you, because that too will work.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiffany is spot on. Parting words, I would say thank you for giving us a platform to talk about Black maternal health, the importance of the work that doulas are doing. I think from a policy perspective, we need people to continue to advocate, to fund public health, to fund public clinics, to fund programs that support doulas, that support communities of color, that support women. And it's important that we continue to not only lift our voice and we talk about social justice issues, about police reform, about educating and reforming public education and healthcare reform, but that we also place a high value on the work that women are doing. Because oftentimes our work is invisible, and it's time that we take that invisible nature of the work and make it very visible, and that we start to uplift and highlight it. Because again, we as women are supporting humanity.
It's beautiful. Well, it has been such a pleasure reuniting with the two of you guys in such an important way. I really think, I hope that the audience enjoyed this as much as I did and really gleaned some of the important messages that you guys have put forward. So I really appreciate you guys for being here. And audience, again, thank you for listening to Straight Talking with Kelly. And let's say goodbye to these young ladies. So,
All right. Thank you.